everybody. We're here today to support FAST, Foundation of Angelman Syndrome Therapeutics. FAST is organized by parents to fund research, clinical trials, and therapeutics. One Chicago mother, Paula Evans, started FAST when her daughter Ainsley was diagnosed with Angelman Syndrome. Here's a video about how Angelman Syndrome affects kids.
Ainsley was 10 months and 1 day old when we were told she would never speak, that she may never walk, that she would have debilitating, life-threatening seizures, and would never learn to read, go to college, have a job, or live on her own. They told us Ainsley would forever be dependent on others. There were no treatments for her, no hope for a cure. Ainsley, like thousands and thousands of children around the world, has Angelman Syndrome. The first 2 years were especially difficult. Like many of her friends with Angelman Syndrome, Ainsley does suffer debilitating seizures and numerous health problems. But at 2 years, 8 months, and 8 days old, Ainsley learned to ride a tricycle. At 3 years, 10 months, and 9 days old, she took her first steps. At 5 years, 2 months, and 3 days old, Ainsley signed her first word. 6 months later, she learned to read. Ainsley isn't the only one proving the doctors wrong. In 2007, Angelman Syndrome was cured in the mouse model, and research towards a cure for AS has been moving forward ever since. Angelman Syndrome will be cured. The only question now is how many more days, months, and years Ainsley and her friends will need to wait. How many more days, months, and years before Ainsley speaks her first word? The doctors were right about one thing. Ainsley will be dependent on others. Funding the cure for Angelman Syndrome is up to us, and our children are waiting. CureAngelman.org, raising hope through research, changing lives together.
And now, with Hope for a Cure, I'll be singing One Day by Mitzvah. You know that Elvis is a superstar, but FAST has its own celebrity who supports its organization and raises awareness by speaking publicly about its own son with Angelman Syndrome. For his incredible efforts to support different charitable organizations, including FAST, Colin Farrell received the Chase American Giving Award in December 2011. Here's a video about it.
Colin Farrell. We know him from his work in award-winning and blockbuster films. We know him as a Golden Globe winner for Best Actor. But of all his projects, what is closest to Colin's heart is his passionate work with Cure Angelman.
Angelman syndrome is a neurogenetic condition that manifests itself in a variety of different ways. Impaired speech or complete lack of speech, jerky gait, trouble with fine motor skills. It's a seizure condition.
What drew Colin to the Cure Angelman organization was the fact that his own son James was diagnosed with the condition.
We noticed with James at the age of about 7 or 8 months he wasn't hitting certain benchmarks that children at that age are supposed to hit. He wasn't sitting up, he wasn't crawling, he wasn't cooing. For parents, it's a huge thing, the first step. All parents talk about it. So then imagine that you're told your child may never walk. Try those first steps on for size and see what that's like. It's a world rocker. I mean, I'm wet.
So without further ado, please welcome Mr. Colin Farrell. They are enormously grateful to him for speaking publicly, sharing James with the world in a very personal way, because every time Colin does that, it helps their child.
We're the small voices for all of our children. Now that he's come forward and talked about his son and talked about Angelman Syndrome, it's a huge voice that has brought a ton of awareness.
The thing that allowed me to turn a corner was me asking myself, okay, Colin, if you could ask James what to do, and you said to him, James, there's a chance that if we do this, this and this, that other children will be helped. James would look at me and go, why are we having this conversation? Angelman syndrome, it's a really interesting condition actually, and
it sounds rare. I've never
one in
heard of it.
30,000 children, they say, has it. I would like to say is afflicted with it, but has this condition. And yeah, one of the characteristics is a true obsession with water. So if James then gets upset at home, I can get a pot and put some water in it, and he'd be like, oh. I understand, conceptually how if I go on a chat show and I mention Angelman syndrome, then Cure Angelman, the website, gets a few thousand more hits and some money comes in, and I understand that maybe some people at home who see the chat show feel less alone. I understand it all, but on the inside, I'm just a dad of a child that has this condition. He's just really, really bright light that illuminates everybody he comes in contact with.